Welcome back to the Grand Solar Minimum channel. Happy New Year, everybody. Today is January 1st, 2020, the first day of the year. Let's try to make it a good year, right? But Happy New Year to everybody. Thank you for tuning in this morning. I know some of you probably had a long night last night, but nonetheless, here we are, another day, another new decade to celebrate, and more stuff for us to monitor. Looks kind of funny down there at the bottom. We did finish 2019 on 281 days without sunspots. Now, the last time we came close to something like that, 1913, where sunspot counts were over 300, or I'm sorry, lack of sunspots was 311 days without sunspots. So 281, 266, or 268 for 2018. We'll have to see what 2020 will bring us. Right now, we're starting off 4 days in a row without sunspots. This is the first day of the year, first day without sunspots. Solar wind speeds are coming in at 331.9 kilometers per second with a density of 3.5. Our TCI is 2.63. It's getting just a little bit colder as we continue to move on through this year of 2020. KP is a 1, and a 24-hour max is also at a 1. We are expecting some solar wind speeds to increase just a little bit on January 1st and January 2nd. Let's go over to thegrandsolarminimum.com and take a look. We do see some sunspots for solar cycle 25 that could be potentially developing. These two right down here at the bottom, they're just now coming over the eastern limb. They have not been officially named, and there's not been a lot of concern about these two yet. So at the same time, still early, but not a sunspot just yet, just active regions for us. Other than that, no large coronal holes on the horizon or nothing like that at all here. So, and you have to, basically, this is another way to judge the level of minimum that we're in. Each year you have a set amount of geomagnetic storms and the ranking, G4s, G5s. Obviously you're going to see more of those during solar max, and then as we get into solar minimum, we start to see those G4s and G3s go down. And like this year we had a couple of G2s, in 2019 we had a few G2s. I'm not sure if we got to a G4 or a G3 at all in 2019. So that to me tells me that the sun's amplitude and this minimum is continuing to trend towards the downside of things. I don't see anything yet that shows us that we're coming out of a solar minimum. According to the last couple of years of data, we're still right in the thick of it. But on this sun right here, looks like it's going to be quiet. We'll have to pay attention to those two solar cycle 25 sunspots down there in the lower regions. But right now they are not sunspots. All right, let's go jump across the pond. I thought that the radar was actually malfunctioning here. Not the case. It is dry for once in the UK, Scotland, Ireland, even Europe, France, Spain. That's the combination of the two countries. France, Germany, Italy. It's dry. Even up here in Norway. Very unusual. Unless my radar is malfunctioning. And I had to read the forecast before I started the show tonight, or this morning. And indeed, today is mostly dry, but rather cloudy. Though there should be a few breaks over Scotland, Northern Ireland, and Northern England. So could see some sun in those areas. Chance for a few spots of rain over parts of the far south and southwest England. Windy in the north. And tonight, mostly dry, but still cloudy outside. Windy in the north, especially northwest Scotland, where cloud thickening to give spells of rain later in the night. And Thursday, rather windy and cloudy day, especially for the northern Scotland, with rain spreading southeastwards into many regions. Much of the eastern and central southern England likely staying dry until after dark. And there's some of that moisture that we were wondering about, but it's all up north right now. All right, let's take a look at our flood alerts. way down. 38 flood alerts, 21 are flood warnings, and 0 severe flood warnings. We had 12 flood alerts drop off in the past 24 hours. So we are moving in the right direction, hopefully. We're going to dry out a little bit as it's still rather mild. We haven't seen the winter-like temperatures. However, I did see Judicoa make a comment about how mid-January, which is usual, that's when we start seeing cold and snow anyway, but there's looking to be some winter-like conditions coming to the region within the next couple of weeks. All right, let's jump back over here to the United States. Here in the lower 48, we have rain in Seattle, Washington, and Portland, Oregon. Also some snow out there in Missoula and Great Falls, Montana. Boise, Idaho, also dealing with some rain showers. Salt Lake City's got some minor snow right now, and across parts of North Dakota, we've got some sleet in Bismarck and Minot. Go over here to the northeast, well, some lake effect snow showers for Buffalo this morning. Parts of upstate New York also experiencing snow showers. Nothing major. Everything's going to be light today. I don't expect any major storms, but I want to show you the watch box real quick. Just some few minor winter weather advisories, some flood watches across the South in the Tennessee Valley, Mississippi, Alabama, and Georgia. So, and then we also have a winter storm warning in upstate New York, but that is mainly, let's go ahead and zoom in here. So this is Watertown and Fulton. So winter storm warning today. Let's find out what the impacts are going to be for you guys up there. If they're going to give us, snowfall is going to be light. 2 to 3 inches of snow at the most here. So not sure why there's a winter storm warning. We might be seeing some high winds possibly, and maybe some mixed precip that would cause this to be a winter storm. But right now they got a warning on it, so we'll keep our eyes on it and see if we get really anything out of it. I doubt it. It's a very upper part of New York near the Canadian border. Again, this is all minor and light. Taking a look at our frost freeze line. Well, there you go. In the majority of the United States, it is winter, so we're going to see those 30s out there everywhere. The wind chills, not too bad for the most part for the first day of January. Pretty cold in the northeast and the northwest and across the four-corner states. Across the south, though, kind of mild out there. -1 up there. Hello, millennial farmer. You guys are waking up butt-ass cold this morning with the wind chills. And this is what Noah thinks is going to happen today. Now, this doesn't mean everything that's shaded in these boxes are going to get sleet and heavy snow. These are just areas that they are focused on. The shading area is possibility. Where you see the white lines and the gray lines, that's where we're definitely going to see precipitation, heavy snow falling across Idaho, Wyoming, Montana, and Utah. And then we also have some freezing rain again for North Dakota, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. Quiet over here in the upper Midwest and the Great Lakes area. Some light snow today in the Northeast, nothing to really write home about. And then tomorrow gets a little bit messier. We got a system moving across the United States right now. And we're going to have snow to our northern plain states and rain to the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and the East Coast. And then by the time we get on to Friday, January 3rd, all that rain is going to be right back here in the Northeast and on the East Coast again. Backside of this where there's another cold front. And this is where I believe we'll start to see January, especially for the Northeast, the Northern Plains, and the Northwest. I really feel like January is going to start getting into gear as far as the cold. Surprisingly, Kentucky, Tennessee, Ohio Valley, West Virginia, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, some mild weather for January, if you ask me. 50s, 40s. Cold in the Northeast, cold in the Northwest, and the Northern Plains. But we're still struggling to see those cold temperatures across the Midwest. Now, I will say this. The last time we had an El Nino, 2015, I was wearing shorts at a football game in Cleveland, Ohio. 65 degrees. Last game of the season for this year for Cleveland and Cincinnati. The temperature was in Cincy, it was almost 65 degrees. So why are we seeing temperatures in December so mild? And even though it was a weak one, it was still an El Nino this year. And I believe that's factoring the temperatures so far for this particular start of the winter. And it will get cold. We will see some very cold temperatures here in the near future. But to me, this reminds me of 2015. Now, some folks will label 2015's El Nino as a super El Nino, but it never got to 2.0. So it was never a super El Nino according to NOAA standards, but the media wanted to overhype things. So that's my reasoning here why we're seeing such mild temperatures in places like in Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri, Illinois, even parts of Kansas and Oklahoma. I believe that has a lot to do with that weak El Nino that we did have this year. And again, it's just delaying the start of winter. To me, this shows that we're going to see winter conditions be prolonged, go all the way through April again this year. All right, let's talk about this first winter storm of 2020. And of course, Weather Channel wants to call it an unusual storm. Now let's go back. First winter storm of May to be maybe unusual. Not much different from the one that we just had, really. Snow in the west and northwest, and then we have the rain going across the middle part of the United States, where it's mild. 57 in St. Louis on Thursday, 52 in Cincinnati, 55 in D.C., 54 in Atlanta. Now, by any means is that warm. 54 degrees in the south on January is right there on average. But this map to me looks a little misleading. It almost makes it look like we're going to be in the 70s and 80s. So, a little trick photography if you ask me. But as we get to Thursday and to Friday, that rain goes all the way to the East Coast. Some chance for freezing rain in upper elevations in upstate New York. But by Saturday, snow and freezing rain coming to the southwestern region of Ohio, Indiana, all snow. Northeast Ohio is going to be heavy snow. And then we have sleet and rain once again back in the northeast, snow to the upper edge of this. And this will be the beginning, or the end, I should say, of the mild weather here in the northeast. Winter will definitely be here. Let's take a look at the GFS report. Again, very messy in the northwest. More snow expected across that area. Salt Lake City. There's our rain that we're going to be getting with this next system. And then January 5th, Sunday. This is where I believe some of the colder air starts to filter in. Taking a look at western New York, getting lake effect snows on the 5th of January. Snow entering the vicinity in the northwest once again. Here comes an Alberta clipper across the Great Lakes into the northeast, mainly upstate New York. And that lingers around. That's just light snow for January 8th. More snow coming in from the northwest. Pretty decent little system trying to fire up here on the 10th and the 11th. And as this system here goes through, look at that. This could be some trouble. We talked about this storm between the 10th and the 13th of January. The GFS is once again showing this system getting pretty developed here. Ice and freezing rain again to most parts of New York. The top half is going to receive heavy, heavy snow. New Hampshire, Vermont, and most of Maine. But look at this thing here. Saturday, next weekend. This looks like a good old classic nor'easter at this point. So the coastal cities will see heavy rain, high winds, and we will see frozen precipitation across parts of the Albany, New York area, Massachusetts as well. Look out, more snow on the way in the northwest, Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, Nevada, Washington, and Oregon seeing some messy weather at the same time that the northeast is. And as you see this storm moving out on Sunday, January 12th, it's going to leave a mess, especially for you folks in New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. Parts of New York will see heavy snow, but I believe the heaviest of the snow is going to be further in the northeast. And then as we run through the rest of the day on January 12th, more snow to come in through the northwest and just tons of moisture, guys. Temperatures will cooperate for some of us here in the northeast to see all snow. 4 quarter states again by the middle of January, starting to see some snow. And I don't know if you guys can see this, but it's almost like a dead cross line across. Well, right here, it dips down. We have colder air. Believe it or not, we're going to be colder in parts of Nevada than we are in parts of Illinois at this point of the winter. But there's like a line right here where we're seeing temperatures above freezing. And the northeast, the northern plains, the northwest are our cold spots. So far, that's the areas that are seeing winter-like conditions. January 16th into the 17th, we got another major system that the GFS is trying to tell us is going to happen. This looks like more of a mid-Atlantic storm. This is going to go across Illinois, Indiana, and Ohio. But if you are Columbus south, expect freezing rain and rain from this. As this storm moves out of Ohio by the end of the day Friday, it will be cold enough for all snow, but that's overnight. This storm races off into the Atlantic. Washington, D.C. will be affected. Philadelphia will be affected with decent amount of snow, too, according to this system. Let's take a look at our temperatures over the next couple of days. Right now, we're in the 30s and 40s for the most part of the United States. 50s in the deep south, not bad for wintertime. And really, these cold temperatures are fluctuating, but nothing amazingly mild here. I mean, 53 degrees in Cincinnati on January 3rd is kind of a big deal, but at the same time, it's hovering in the 40s. We've got colder air approaching here by the 5th. And you all know what the importance of the 5th is. Once we get past the 5th, the Earth starts moving further away from the sun. And also on top of that, we're going to be the only ones on this side of the sun. All the other planets in the solar system are on the opposite side of us, which gives us a weaker magnetic connection. So that's going to be part of the reason why we have so much opportunity for moisture. More cosmic rays are being intruded into our atmosphere. But by the 5th of January, and it's really just balance of cold and sort of cold. But for the most part, the areas that I've been talking about, northwest, northeast, northern plains, that's where all the cold is right now. Still chilly. Upper 30s in parts of Nebraska, mid 40s in parts of Kansas, but nothing bone chilling yet. You know what I mean? Going through January 8th, that cold air is being bottled up in Canada, and pretty soon they're going to start sharing this Arctic air with us. Here we are, January 10th, right before this big system starts moving in on the January 11th that could affect the Northeast with lots of snow and lots of rain on the coastal side of this. As you guys see, once again, we're talking about that ridge and fridge. Look at how weak this ridge is now. We were talking about temperatures of 40s and 50s on this ridge. Now, as we get closer or further into January, we start seeing that ridging, and it is not as mild as it has been this year. So as the further we get into winter, the less milder that this ridging gets here on the East Coast. And then you guys can see, look at this, January 12th. If you live in Canada, you're freezing your butts off at this point. The northern plains, though, here's where your cold air comes in. The northeast, here's where your colder air moves in. Single digits for lows, teens for the highs, and just really this back and forth battle between this cold Arctic air and this warmer, milder January air here in the U.S. But like I said, if you live in the northern top of this country, you are definitely going to see your winter kick into full gear by the middle of January. Here we are, January 15th. Again, warming up a little bit in the south, but that cold Arctic air will push down and nix that in a hurry. So this is what we're looking at here, middle of January. Single digits across the northeast, northern plains, and northwest. Again, the majority of the cold weather is going to be northeast, northern plains, and northwest. The middle part of this country is going to be pretty unusual, 40s and 50s in some spots. 60s in the deep south, but other areas are also experiencing average winter temperatures right now, like the four quarter states and Wyoming and South Dakota, North Dakota, but this is definitely going to be changing every day like we've always seen. So stay tuned to our channel, guys. Tonight we'll be on live at 9 p.m. for a live update on the Grand Solar Minimum News. We'll read off a couple of headlines across the world and keep you up to date on what is happening out there, guys. That's going to do it for us today. We hope everyone has a great New Year's Day. And until tonight at 9 p.m., we will talk soon, guys. Take care.
Do you like this show? Give us a thumbs up. Want to support us more? Share to your favorite social media platform. Buy a t-shirt or become a Patreon. All links are in the description below.